And also during this period is when the 100 Years' War between England and France starts, right? And with the Pope in the back, looking to be in the back pocket of the French, that universal, ministerial office of being a universal pontiff seems to get clouded, right? Seems to seem that he's not so universal, he's more French than universal. And so these problems start developing because of this, even though most of the popes from this period, the Avignon papacy, they were not immoral. Some of them, one's actually blessed, has the title blessed, but most of them just didn't reform. And the size of the curia starts growing, you know, the court gets bigger and bigger, more expensive to fund and maintain, and because the Pope isn't down in Rome, he has to hire mercenaries to govern there. And they are a disaster and cause all kinds of problems in Italy. So the Avignon papacy, it weakened that connection, that bond between the Pope and being the successor of St. Peter. Being in the see where both St. Peter and St. Paul died. That connection, after 70 years, becomes weaker and weaker. And in 1376, 29-year-old St. Catherine of Siena, so if you attended any of the lectures last summer, you made it to one of Catherine of Siena. She, the 29-year-old, uneducated, illiterate until this miraculous event, the 20th of 21 children, makes her way up to Avignon and tells the Pope he has to get back to Rome. But in a very, not in a condescending, Catherine of Siena likes to be taken in by all types of forces. She was, well, maybe more Catholic than the Pope. She reminded Pope Gregory of his secret vow. So Pope Gregory the Ninth had, vowed that if he were elected, he would return. If he were elected Pope, he would return to Rome. And he hadn't done this. And she had the secret knowledge that he had made this vow. And so when she says this to him, he takes her seriously. And so he returns to Rome. He returns to Rome and returns the papacy there, but he doesn't live long. St. Catherine of Siena says, "To the glory of Almighty God, I am bound to say that I smelled the stink of sin which flourishes in the papal court of Avignon while I was still at home in my own town, more sharply than those who have practiced them and do practice them every day here." So that's why she came. So Pope Gregory the Ninth returned to Rome on January 17, 1377, but he died less than a year later, and his succession created the Great Western Schism. And basically what happened is that he died. The cardinals in Rome came together, who were present in Rome, came together. There were 11 French cardinals, 4 Italians, and 1 Spaniard. And the Roman mob starts outside the building, starts demanding a Roman be elected, or their hats were going to turn the color of their red vestments. So they elected an Italian. Archbishop Prignano of Bari, who took the name Urban VI. Later that day, the conclave, now that the mob had gone home, the conclave voted again, and they voted for him a second time. Just so, okay, this has happened, and so that there's no, you can't say we did this because we were threatened, all right? They took the second vote. They reconfirmed it. And all of the cardinals stayed in Rome for his coronation and for the first few weeks of his papacy. But he was not the person they thought they were getting. He was very reform-minded, very austere, and he demanded that others be very austere as well. And he also personally insulted some of the cardinals. There's a tale that he came to blows with one of the cardinals physically. So not the most mild-mannered of popes, but they had elected him. He was the rightful successor, and by their office, that's the purpose of their office, to ensure the succession of the papacy. He wanted to eliminate all simony, all bribes, get rid of all corruption, and he wanted to do it quickly, and some of these cardinals were quite comfortable with that type of life, and they weren't that interested. And then when the insults start coming down, their minds switch quickly. So by July, so that was March, by July, many of the cardinals were beginning to declare the election of Urban VI invalid because they had voted for him under duress. Their lives had been threatened, that's why they voted for him. And on September 20th, 1378, the 11 French cardinals, the one Spaniard, elected Robert of Geneva as anti-pope Clement VIII. And for those living outside, not having this immediate knowledge, this is great confusion. It's not that Frederick Barbarossa has placed his candidate, and everyone knows that. This is great. Who's telling the truth? Only the cardinals know, and they're not fessing up. So Catherine of Siena sends them some very pointed letters. They're worth reading. And this map, you can kind of see the reddish areas were the areas that followed the Pope in Rome, Urban VI. And the yellow areas were those that followed Clement VIII, the Pope that moved back to Avignon. So the West is very divided. And part of these lands will flip back and forth from time to time. The prestige of the papacy keeps falling, and the power of the local princes goes up because now they can play one off the other. If you don't do this, I'll go over to him. And Dominican order, the Franciscans split. There is an Avignon obedience, so St. Vincent Ferrer. There are actually saints who were following the anti-pope because they didn't know. And St. Catherine of Siena is following the Pope in Rome. Many people throughout Christendom did not know whom to believe. Division with the church split the continent, religious orders, and weakened discipline universally. So why don't we take a little break now, and hopefully we can get to Constance still. Yeah.
Did the office of cardinal become part of the Carlos?